Yesterday was the 5th of January 2021, which meant that it was officially a year since Waitress closed on Broadway. Now, I was extremely fortunate and got to see Waitress on Broadway 7 times during its run. I didn't plan to see it that many times, but the universe came together and certain things happened and I did. So I wanted to share some of my favourite memories from when I have seen Waitress on Broadway, because I have some cracking ones. There's one in particular that till the day I die will still be my favourite memory probably of any Broadway related thing ever. So stick around, that'll be the last one that I talk about. The first time I saw Waitress was in May 2017. We were staying from Friday and going home on a Thursday, and we had planned to see Waitress on the Wednesday evening for our last night in New York. However, my first Waitress memory is from the Saturday, because we got up that morning, went and did some touristy things. We went to Governor's Island, got some ice cream, sat on some hammocks for a while, did some other touristy things down at the southern tip of Manhattan, and then we got the subway back up to Midtown. We're sitting on like the red steps in Times Square, and I was just like super excited about seeing Waitress. I'll actually put like a little video here from my Snapchat. So after I took that video, I said to Susie, can we just like go round to the Brooks Atkinson Theatre? I had never seen it before, and anybody who's familiar with Times Square knows that the Brooks Atkinson Theatre is literally just round the corner from the stairs. So we walked around the corner, and the closer we were getting to the theatre, I was getting more excited, but then I realised there was a crowd outside the theatre. And then I realised that it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and the matinee had just finished, and the people who were standing outside the theatre were stage dooring. I then realised that Sarah Bareilles was there signing playbills, and I lost my shit. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't even like interact with her at all. I kind of just like stood at the barrier and watched her interact with other people. I hadn't seen the show yet. I didn't have a playbill. I didn't have a ticket. I didn't even have like a flyer in my bag that she could sign. And I also felt a little bit weird asking her to sign something when I hadn't seen the show yet. So I just kind of watched from afar, but I was just standing there like, oh, that's Sarah. That's real Sarah. Like right there, that's her. Like right there, the one that's on the billboard around the corner, that's her. She's right there. To see her like standing there in the flesh when I had listened to her music for so long, it was insane. So then on the Wednesday of that week, we got to go to see the show, which was the last day of May. And as far as I was aware, they didn't give out Pride playbills until June. We got a Pride bill for my first ever Waitress show, which was the best thing ever and very me. I was just so happy to get a Pride bill. I was like, I could not be happier right now. So I didn't get to meet Sarah at stage door that night, but I did get to meet Molly Jobe, who signed here, who was on for Dawn, and also Ella, who was on for Lulu, and she was very, very cute. So after that, I didn't actually think I'd be back in New York for a while, but roll on then a few months later to November 2017, and I can't remember what order these announcements came in, but basically it turned out that Sarah was going back into Waitress as Jenna at the same time that Jake from Scissor Sisters and Kirsten from Pentatonics were going into Kinky Boots. So I, as a massive Sarah fan, a massive Pentatonics fan, and a massive Scissor Sisters fan, was like, I need to go to this, but also it's a little bit insane for me just to go to New York to see these two performances. So I just left it up to fate. I put in a holiday request in work, and if it got signed off, I was going to go, and if it didn't, I didn't go. And it got signed off on Sarah's birthday, which was a sign. So I booked flights to New York and went at the end of February, which was due to be Sarah's last show. So I had booked a ticket specifically for what was due to be Sarah's last show, which turned out not to be her last show. But that worked in my favour, and I'll tell you why. So I flew from Dublin to New York on the Friday, went to see Come From Away matinee on the Saturday, and then I had a ticket to go and see Waitress on the Sunday, which was the only time I had planned to see the show that week. However, once I walked out of the theatre from Come From Away, I went straight and bought a ticket for Waitress on the Saturday night because I have no chill. And then the next day I went to see Sarah in what would have been her last show, but wasn't. But it was Joe's last show as Earl, and I got to meet him after at stage door and had a lovely conversation with him. And I just remember that he was extremely present in the moment, genuinely seemed interested in me, like asked me my name, where I was from, and just had like a really, really nice conversation with me. And I just remember after that interaction, I was like, you are such a nice guy. And I met him again after Sarah's Washington show on the Amidst the Chaos tour. He did the same thing. He was like, your accent's not American, like where are you from? And he actually, you know, took time and was very present when he was talking to me. I don't know if anyone else has ever met Joe, but that is the impression that I've got from him the 2 times that I have met him, and from the interactions and the way that he's interacted with me. It is no surprise to me that he's the type of person that Sarah has settled down with, because he is genuinely lovely. So going to see Sarah on the Sunday was meant to be the last time I saw Waitress on that trip. And I went to the airport on the Wednesday to fly home, only to find out that my flight had been cancelled, and the next available flight wasn't until Saturday. So I had no hotel to stay in. I was on a train back down to Manhattan because I was meant to be flying from Newborough, which is like 75 miles north of New York City. While I was on the train back down to New York, I was Googling Waitress rush tickets before I even had a hotel to stay in that night. And it was like 9:30 p.m. It was like late at night in terms of not having a place to stay, but I was still Googling Waitress rush tickets anyway. So I saw Waitress 3 times on that trip, 0 regrets. Got to meet Sarah at stage door. She signed my playbill, got to meet some of the other cast as well. And the last night that I was there was also the best stage door experience that I had, because it had been raining and a lot of people didn't stay, but I got out of the theatre and got a really good spot underneath the marquee. So I actually got a really good spot at stage door and got to have a lovely interaction with Sarah. So I'm going to go a little bit out of chronological order here, because I had 2 more trips to see Waitress. And I'm going to start with the last one and then go back to the other one, because the other one was the best. The last time I saw Waitress was in November 2019 with Jordan Sparks as Jenna. This was a trip that I went on with my dad. We went to New York for a few days, then to Philadelphia for Sarah's Amidst the Chaos tour, and then down to Washington DC for another 2 dates on Sarah's Amidst the Chaos tour. So this one was kind of special to me just because I got to take my dad, and it was the first time that like somebody from my family had come with me to see Waitress, and somebody who wasn't like a musical theatre fan, really. My dad did like it. He didn't go into like super duper detail or like, you know, walk out of the Brooks Atkinson Theatre #1 Sarah stan or anything, but he loved it, and it was just like really nice to share that with him. And I also got talking to a really lovely guy at stage door who worked for British Airways and was telling me about lots of like plane related things. So if by some miracle you're watching this, please get in touch with me, because you seemed really cool and I would like to stay in touch with you. Also, I just have to note on this trip, as I said before, I went to Sarah's 2 Washington DC shows from the Amidst the Chaos tour, and in the second Washington date, some of the cast of Waitress drove down from New York to come to the Washington show. During Bad Idea, they were like doing the claps and stuff, and they also got t-shirts printed that says "My boss is cooler than your boss," and wore them, and they were just extremely pure. And I'm really glad that I got to go to that show and like witness that interaction, and got to witness them experiencing Sarah doing her thing, like, you know, what she does best. And it was just very pure. So my best Waitress trip by far was in September 2019. Me and my friend John had been planning to go to New York, like semi-seriously, kind of like half joking around, like should we just book flights to New York, and also kind of like, okay, we really should go to New York on holiday. And then Colleen and Todrick announced that they were going in as Dawn and Ogie, and I said to John, I was like, I kind of really want to go and see this, and he was like, I kind of really want to go to New York as well. So we booked flights and tickets to go and see Colleen and Todrick's last show. Colleen and Todrick's last show also turned out to be Alison Luff's last show, and also was Charity Angel Dawson's last show. The atmosphere in it was insane. The seats that we booked as well were at the very back of stalls, just beside like the sound booth, and we had 1 spare seat beside us, and we were wondering who was going to sit there, because it was like prime seats for somebody who was related to somebody in the show. And it turned out in the end that we were sitting beside Matt, who is Alison Luff's husband. So that was another brilliant experience. And then stage door that night was the most insane thing I have ever seen, and it was pretty much for Colleen. The crowd was just covering the street. It was mental. I've never seen anything like it. We were down like away from the theatre door, so it took Colleen and pretty much everybody else quite a while to get to us. I think we were at stage door for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, like waiting for Colleen to come around. I think that's how long it took her from when she came out to get to us. Like, she signed for every single person in that crowd, as did everyone else, but like it was crazy. But by the time that she got to us, we actually got to talk to her because the crowd had kind of dissipated a little bit. It was just a very, very pure experience. Also, I have to say, and I know I'm very ignorant in this, I did not know who Alison Luff was, but now I'm a full-on Alison Luff stan. She was incredible. If you got to see her Jenna, you will know what she was like. If you ever get the chance to see her perform in anything else, I would highly recommend you to go, because that woman's talent is off the chart. Off the chart. She just had me, even now, she just had me speechless. Like, I can't even put into words how good she is. She's just such an underrated Jenna, and I cannot speak highly enough of her. My number one favourite Waitress Broadway memory is again in September 2019 on the trip that I went on with John. About 2 or 3 weeks before we were planning to go, they announced Waitress cast album karaoke was happening the night that we got there. So we were flying on a Tuesday. It was happening on that Tuesday night with Colleen and Todrick as the host. I had never had a cast album karaoke happening while I was in New York or in London before, so I was like, I need to go to this. This will probably be the only chance I ever get to go to witness a cast album karaoke. We get to Dublin the morning we're flying out. We get on the plane. I'm super excited. The plane pushes back. The plane sits on the tarmac for like 45 minutes, I think. The pilot comes on and says one of our engines won't start, so they have to push back to the stand and get like the mechanics to come out and start our engine. We're meant to arrive at 1, we didn't arrive until about 3:30. We went straight from the airport, got on the subway, went to Brooklyn, found our Airbnb, which took us like an hour. Then when we got there, we couldn't open the door. Got back on the subway, went to Times Square, got to Times Square at about 6:30. I think I got like one snack, like a bag of crisps or something. And then I went straight to the theatre. So I'm sitting in the theatre just like so relieved that I got there in time. Haven't had dinner, haven't really slept, jet lagged, and it was my first time seeing Alison's performance. I was blown away. After the show, I go down to the stalls to like sit and watch cast album karaoke. I do have to note at this point that I signed up for cast album karaoke at the very start when I got into the theatre. So by the time cast album karaoke's happening, it's like 10:30 at night, which is like 3:30 in the morning UK time. I had got up the morning before at about 4:30. It was like 23 hours without sleep, jet lagged, haven't had dinner. I'm sitting here like, is this a dream? Like, I'm sitting here in the Brooks Atkinson Theatre, and then Colleen Ballinger reads out my name, and I'm getting up, I'm walking onto the Waitress stage, and I get to sing on the Brooks Atkinson stage and made my Broadway debut.
I grew up an only child in the suburb of a city. I spent my days alone, my only friend was this red kitty called Sardine. I thought it was hilarious to call it kind of free. She played hard to get, hissed and watched and scratched me. Where she was trying to say, oh, you come and catch me. I learned quickly the perseverance to between the cat and her new best friend me.
This was just like the most insane experience of my life. When you get off stage, they also give you this little badge, and I don't know if you can read it, it's not focusing, but it says, I made my Broadway debut at Waitress Karaoke, which is the cutest thing ever. I love it so much. But being able to actually take part in Waitress cast album karaoke to this day blows my mind, because I am a distinctly average singer, and I got the opportunity to sing on Broadway. Like, that's, to me, that's still absolutely crazy. And I know that there was only a limited amount of cast album karaoke's like that happened throughout the run, and only so many people got to do it. So it is like a really small handful of people who actually got to take part in cast album karaoke. And I am so grateful that I, 1, got a ticket, 2, that my flight wasn't delayed even further, and 3, that I managed to do it. For the rest of my life, that will be one of my all-time favourite memories of anything ever, really. Hi, hello, this is Janine from Later. So when I was talking about cast album karaoke, I totally forgot to say that when I was walking on stage, Colleen was walking off and handed me the microphone that I used to sing. And when I walked off stage, I was then greeted by Miranda Sings. Colleen had changed into character, was fully committed to the character in full costume, and when I went to hand my microphone back, I handed it back to Miranda Sings. And obviously by this point, I'm just like, what is going on with my life? What is happening here? In Colleen's video that she put up of Miranda doing cast album karaoke, there is a clip where you can hear Todrick talking to me just before I come off stage, and then there's a cut and it goes to Miranda saying like, please pick me, and the cut is where I walked off stage and saw Miranda, so I'll put that clip in here.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
we're at the karaoke night. I got backstage.
Thank you. Great. All
Waiting, hopefully they'll call my name.
So I think it's safe to say that I have a lot of things to be thankful for with Waitress Broadway. It brought me so much joy over the 4 years that it was open. I was extremely lucky to be able to see it so many times. I miss it so much. Like, in my head, I still kind of, I'm like, once this pandemic's over, I can just like hop on a plane to New York again and go and see Waitress. And then I kind of remember that it's not there anymore. And then my brain's like, oh, it's okay, I can hop on a plane to London and go and see Waitress in the West End. And then my brain's like, nope. So my only option now is to wait for the Waitress tour to be rescheduled again, which I did have tickets for the very first opening show in Dublin. They said that they're coming to Belfast, which when the tickets for that go on sale, and I have in my possession a ticket to see Waitress the musical in Belfast, I will be freaking out. But until then, I am just going to keep living in the wonderful memories that Waitress Broadway gave me, especially the cast album karaoke, which is still just a fever dream. I would also love to hear your favourite memories from Waitress. If you have any that you'd like to share with me from times that you went to see it, any weird and wonderful stories that you have, please just come and talk to me about Waitress. I miss it so much and I still love it so much. I mean, may we all be so lucky.